All right, so section 3 is all about conflicts in relational systems, or how we have conflicts with people that we have a relationship with. So, it you have identified the conflict style that you use most often. But that is not enough because conflict is relational, and the character of the conflict is going to be determined by the people that we interact with. So you might go into a conflict and you have a specific way that you plan to behave, and then whoever you're in conflict with has a certain way that they respond, and everything might go out the window. So basically, they look at uh, different ways that we can play off of each other. And so we can have a complementary conflict outcome or a symmetrical conflict outcome. So if it's complementary, the two of us in conflict use different styles, but the behavior reinforces. So there's this great chart on page 349 that gives some examples. So um, they talk about one partner is upset because the other is spending too little time at home. Right. So let's just say that it's my husband and I. And so I make demands and I say, I decide, you know what, we're going to, I'm not going to avoid this. We're going to, basically, I guess what happens is I compete. You must spend more time at home. I'm going to win this. And my husband decides to withdraw. So he spends even less time at home. So that's complementary. It could be symmetrical. I yell, he yells. I slam doors, he slam doors, whatever it is. So basically what happens is we use the same tactics. Now, these are destructive patterns. It is absolutely possible to have a complementary conflict or a symmetrical conflict that are constructive. Okay. So that same situation, complementary, I say, let's see, I really like for you to stay home, and my husband steps aside and thinks about it, and then actually just follows through on it. Or symmetrical would be, I say, you don't spend a lot of time at home and I'm worried about this. And my husband says, okay, I'm working extra hours because we have these expenses coming up. So the two of us are using the same style, and it's helping to manage this conflict. Okay. So there's another style that we don't always think about, and it's the fight or flight style, where, or fight flight, not fight or flight. So what happens is that let's see, my mind just went totally blank. I start yelling, he just leaves. Same thing that happens in marriages or committed relationships. It can also happen in parent and teen relationships. And sometimes what happens is people get caught in a spiral where it just escalates. It just gets worse and worse until, I don't know, sometimes it feels that there's nothing that can that's going to resolve this. One person yells, the other person yells louder, and the next person yells even louder, and the next person yells even louder. Or one person says, okay, fine, I'm just not going to deal with this, and withdraws, and the other person goes, fine, I'm not going to deal with this, and withdraws, and then they start withdrawing from other aspects of their life. And so that spiral escalates. I mean, sorry, that last one was de-escalating, because the conflict's not getting bigger or louder, but it's just as destructive. Okay. So, wow, this seems really depressing. All right. So then we have serial arguments, where you keep having the same argument about the same thing. From, please do the dishes, or put your laundry in the basket, not on the bathroom floor, or something serious like I don't know, you have to stop. We're married. Why are you still hanging out with your old girlfriend? Something like that. Okay. So, um, what people tend to focus on are um, really three. There are three sources of friction. Sorry, problematic behaviors. Um, you spend too much. You don't spend enough time at home. Whatever it is that's causing problems. Personality characteristics. It's Friday night. I want to go out and let's go to the club, and because I love being around people, and I'm like, no, let's stay home and watch TV because I hate being around people. So our personalities are in conflict. Or um, communication style. If you've got one person who prefers to avoid arguments and the other one who doesn't mind them, that can cause problems. Or if you want to be completely upfront about things and your partner wants to be less upfront, that can cause a serial argument. So basically, it's the idea like, man, we're having the same argument over and over again. It can be resolved if the people, come to the realization, wow, we've had this argument before, and let's see if we can actually work on this instead of just getting better at arguing. Let's spend some time and figure out how we can fix things. So another aspect of conflict in relational systems is what John Gottman, who's he's the marriage guru, he calls the four horsemen. It's a reference to the four horsemen of the apocalypse, because he says if in a relationship you see any of these four, criticism, defensiveness, contempt, or stonewalling, those are signs that the relationship is in serious difficulty. And I guess he's gotten so good that he can see a couple of people, interacting, and he can predict if they're going to divorce or not, and his statistics are, is that the right word? He's very accurate. All right, so what I want you to do so you can understand this very good is watch the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. I have two versions there. One, the first one it was released by his organization. The second two aren't as good quality. The sound is a little bit off, the mouth moving, but John Gottman was a guest on the Anderson Cooper show, and he talks about these and he gives examples. So that just this can this can deepen your understanding of what these very dangerous conflicts are. All right. Now there's something called a conflict ritual. And you might notice that you know how we said we're having this serial argument kind of thing. Well, there frequently we might fall into a pattern of how we behave. So the book gives an example of a young child who interrupts her parents and demands to be heard in a conversation. So I was at my sister's house for Thanksgiving, and her granddaughter's there, and Stella is 3 and a bit, and she's charming. She's funny. She's very verbal, and she just won't let her parents have conversations with anyone else. She's an only child, so basically they're talking to people and she's like, mom, and the parents are ignoring her, and then finally they give in and they say, like, what's going on? So there's this ritual, because over and over again in the brief time we were at my sister's house, I saw this playing out, that they would say, not now, and yet they would then turn and interact with her. Okay. So I don't know that this is a problem because I don't know that that's the only way her parents deal with her. They might have been accommodating because they were at a family gathering and they knew that if they didn't give in, things would be bad. I'm not sure. Okay. So that's another example they gave was, a couple fights. So one partner leaves, and then when the person comes back, the other person says, "I'm so sorry. It was my fault." And this what we need to be together. And then they fight, and the one person leaves, and then the other person begs for forgiveness. And so, okay, take some time and think about conflicts that you have and realize and ask yourself, are these conflict rituals that you keep having you keep dealing with a conflict with this specific person the same way over and over again? Okay. So this short section had a lot of different information about the different conflict approaches that we have in relationships. So what I'm asking you to do is to don't pick but pick one relationship that seems to have more conflicts than others that you have. What do you see happening in that relationship in terms of conflicts? For example, is it a conflict ritual? Do you see it? Is it a serial argument? Do you realize that you and the person you're in conflict with have a complementary style, or is it a symmetrical style? And I mean, obviously the next question is, well, what are you going to do about this? And we'll talk about that in the very last section, which is this one. Okay, let me get out of here.